Thank you, Brother Jeff. Also thank all of you for taking your time to come here to listen to me. I hope you will understand my accent. For some of you who have been in Nigeria as a missionary, probably you can remember Nigerian English, so you'll understand me better. As he has already said, we came together with my wife yesterday, Dr. Rebecca Samuel. She's here. She can stand up so that you can see her. We have 6 children. Our first son is graduating in 2 months' time. He's studying public administration. And our second son is here in the States studying medicine, Dante. And our third child is a girl, Kucheli, who is studying law at the University of Jos. She is in her final year. And then we have another girl who is also just admitted at the Theological College of Northern Nigeria, trying to study theology. And then our last son, Glenn, he is in secondary school in Mubi. And then one of our sons got lost in Jos. We don't know what happened to him because he left home, and we assume that probably he was killed in this crisis in Jos, because during this period, a lot of people are missing, and you never know what happened to them. So as I said, thank you again for this time, and thank you, Jeff. I know Jeff when I was here at Bethany. I remember he was teaching church history, and probably that was what motivated me to take church history also, because he gave me a book called, by Shelley Bruce, History in Plain Language. That book, I'm still using it. But without wasting of time, when we go into the topic we are going to treat today, is about the state of the church in Nigeria, which is actually a reflection on the persecution against Christians in northern Nigeria. I will want to begin by saying that today, Nigeria is about 52 years old, and it has a population of 170 million people, comprising of 300 ethnic groups or tribes, speaking different languages. And according to Philip Jenkins, who has done a lot of study in Africa, he said a country like this, with this kind of population, rich in oil, has the potential of becoming one of the regional power or global power if the country holds together. And then he also predicted that by 2050, Nigeria might have 300 million people. But then, U.S. Intelligence Committee actually sketched the threats of religious tension in the world, and Nigerian tension was listed among this sketch. And according to Jenkins, based on that report from the intelligence community, he said, if Nigeria can control its religious tension and conflict, it is surely Nigeria can become a world power, which means the future of Nigeria depends on how the country can control the current religious tension in the country. If we miss controlling it, he said we may disintegrate into a smaller entities defined by other tribal or religious group. And the question we may have today is, with what is happening in Nigeria, will Nigeria become a world power, or will it disintegrate into a smaller communities along tribal or religious line? In situations like this, you will also ask, what is the position of Christian church? And what is the church saying or doing in a situation like this? Well, answer to these questions, especially the first and the last question, we can only predict a hope because nobody knows what will happen to Nigeria in the years to come. But my focus of discussion this evening will be on what is the state of the church in this situation, and what are Christians doing? What are they saying about the present situation? But before that then, I wanted to give us a little bit of history of Nigeria to help us understand the real conflict between Christian and Muslim in Nigeria. For some of you, you may remember that before 1st January 1914, there was no country with the name Nigeria. But there were some smaller ethnic groups scattered across west, east, and northern parts around the Niger area. And for that reason, most people are saying the country we know today, Nigeria as a nation, is a British creation. And since then, many people have been questioning the unity of Nigeria, whether we should be together as a country or separate. Because they thought Nigeria, from initially the 300 tribes, never wanted to be together. They were forced to come together as a political nation. And since Nigeria came together, there has been difficulty in getting along. One of our prominent politicians, Awolowo, once said, Nigeria is actually a big mistake made by British, and that the amalgamation of the country to become one nation was the most diabolic, serious injury done to some part of Nigeria. He said this not because he doesn't want Nigeria as a community to be together, but since the British colonial government, the country has been having difficulty of getting along. So Nigeria came together as a nation 1st January 1914. But before that period, apart from the segmented tribes that were in the east, in the northern part, which formed 2 times the largest size of the nation, that area was controlled by Muslims, what we call Hausa Fulani. And the Fulani group initially were ethnic groups that migrated from the Middle East to North Africa, from where they migrated into Nigeria to Gambia. And before they came to Nigeria, there was some Islam there, but the Muslim that was in Nigeria at that time mostly practiced in Maiduguri and other Hausa area was mixed up with the traditional religion. And so it was more of a syncretic religion at that time. So when the Fulani people came, before they came, they were learned in Islam from North Africa. So when they came to Nigeria, most of them were nomadic people. They lived in Nigeria and they acted like a legal advisor or civil servant to those local rulers. And when they were acting as a legal advisor, that was when they learned the weaknesses of these local rulers and the practice of Islam in a syncretic way. So one of their leaders, Usman Amfadio, decided to reform the existing religion. So he started preaching against the practice and the rule of the common people at that time. Through his preaching against the rulers, he was able to gather a lot of dissatisfied common people called Jama'ah. It was during this time when he was trying to form some group that the local rulers felt his preaching against their practice was a threat to their political existence. So they issued an edict forbidding people to convert to Islam at that time. And they also forbidding people from wearing Islamic dress like turban or veil, women. Now the man who was preaching, trying to reform the existing Islam, responded by actually organizing his community and launched preemptive strike against the army of the existing rulers. Fortunately for him, even though he was very small, he has a small number of army, he was able to succeed in defeating the large number of army of the Hausa community. And that he interpreted as God was behind him to actually bring a reform that gives him more power. So he went around And that was the beginning of a jihad, Islamic jihad against or Islamic holy war in Nigeria. Through that period, he was able to conquer the whole of the northern Nigeria. And most of the tribes were conquered, except very few tribes in some areas like the Middle Belt area. He was not able to conquer those people because they were running into the mountains. But those people that were not able to conquer, they were left like a slave hunting ground at that time. So the war spread to all over the north, and then Islamic system of government was established. And then Sharia law was then adopted as the legal system of the whole northern Nigeria. And that was before the appearance of British. Then British came to Nigeria and then conquered this particular, the whole part of Nigeria, but coming to the north, they discovered a system of government has already been established. And as an Islamic system, they were resisting British so strongly that the British has to compromise to form what we call indirect rule system. They conquered the area, but then promised the Hausa Muslim rulers that they will not destroy their religion. They will maintain it, but then appoint a British advisor to the local rulers, meaning the local rulers were allowed to rule their people again. But before this period, the ordinary people who are never Hausa or Fulani people were actually enslaved. They were suffering, persecuted. Most of them were either sold into slavery, or some of them were maintained as a domestic slave. So with the appearance of the British, these ordinary people were happy with the appearance of British army because they thought British will come and actually destroy this existing system that oppresses them. They thought British will save them from their slave masters. Unfortunately for them, the British, as I have already said, conspired with the existing rulers and allowed the existing rulers to continue to rule the local people, but only appointing an advisor. And also made a promise to the Islamic system that they will not tamper with this religion. And they will not even allow anybody from outside to come into the north to tamper with their religion. So some of those areas that this Hausa, Fulani, Muslim were not able to go through before, the British gave them power to even penetrate to the last corner of northern Nigeria. So virtually under British, the whole of the northern area, which I said is 2 times larger than other part of the country, were Islamized completely. Now, missionaries who came from home, they thought since the British has controlled the whole area, they thought it was easy for them to go in to evangelize. And remember, Kalkum, a German man who had developed an interest in evangelizing the Sudan, which means the black area at that time. When he came to England, he decided to go across Europe, even to the United States, going from college to college, teaching students and informing them that there's a need to organize a missionary into what they called that time Western Sudan, which is actually northern part of Nigeria. And he said, if we do not go at this particular time, the whole of the people there will be converted to Islam. And this will be worse for the community there because Islam, according to him at that time, was worse than traditional religion. So the question was, should we allow Islam to penetrate and convert all these people, or should there be a Christians? That was his message all around. So volunteer missionaries agreed to join hands to follow, to accept his idea to go into northern Nigeria to evangelize the area that were never conquered by the Muslims. What they don't understand was that before they arrived in Nigeria, the whole of the north was already in control of Islam, backed by the British colonial rule. So in arriving, they could not go to north because before they can go into any part of the north, the Muslim emir have to give them permission. And remember, this emir said they will not lack anything to tamper with their religion. So it was very difficult for the missionaries. There were a series of restrictions placed on the appearance of missionaries, that if they come to the north, actually, on even arriving in Nigeria, they have to put religion behind and say, we are coming to Nigeria to provide education. Because if they say they are coming to preach the gospel, nobody will even allow them. So they pretend that they are coming to give Western education. So in arriving in Nigeria, they were stationed mostly around a military post, which was even difficult for the missionary to penetrate around the north. So the missionary cleverly decided, if we continue to keep military posts as our place of work, we are not going to succeed. So they decided that each missionary coming to Nigeria will be assigned to a particular located place within the northern Nigeria. And that's why they were able to cover most of the north at that time. But then, with this restriction that whenever they're in the north, they must not preach openly either to a Muslim or to a place where there is a dominant Muslim. And they must not even use languages that will be offensive to the Muslim. They will not even, they must respect a Muslim, and they must warn even their followers not to do anything that will anger the Muslims. And that was the condition under which the missionary worked in the northern part. Apart from that, the missionaries also had an idea that we are coming. If you read the statement of Kalkum, this British missionary, he said, let us go to the north. Let us not be afraid of Muslims. Let us go and stop it from penetrating into the non-Muslim areas. We must not allow Muslims to reach these people. And that was the missionary propaganda. So missionaries themselves had a complete negative view of Islam. So as they were teaching their members, the members were also taught that Islam is not a good religion. Well, of course, even before the missionaries said that, the common people already know that Islam is not a good religion because of the jihad, because those people were persecuted. So missionaries also contributed in giving that picture to the people that Islam is not a good religion. So when Muslims are reading this material, that missionaries are coming to establish a church that will be against them, that will stop them from reaching the common people, actually Christianity was seen as a threat to their existence at that time. And that means Christianity and Islam, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria, grown side by side as an enemy. If there was anything that they could do, even to stop Christianity at that infant stage, they will surely do it. But because the British were in control, Christianity was allowed only among people that were never influenced by Islam. So when missionaries were preaching, especially in what we call Christian religious instruction centers, these places where Christianity started in most of the northern states were regarded as a place for training rebels by the Muslims. They usually complain to the colonial government that these missionaries are training rebels because those members that were trained by missionaries, they don't obey the local rulers anymore. So they were considered as rebels. And therefore, the Muslim government at that time placed some restriction even in allowing the missionary to have a land to do this kind of work. And that restriction or lack of permission to the missionary to either preach or to establish their activities is still existing in Nigeria today. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the tension between Christian and Muslim today started right from that time. And what is happening today is that before British, the Muslims are saying we were in control. We have our system. You know, the first problem we had in Nigeria was because of these Sharia issues. Sharia is actually not a new thing in Nigeria except in the eastern part. It has been there. It was only suspended by the British government. So when British went away, Nigeria got independent, most of the people in power at that time were Muslims. But the Christians that were trained, that know their right, know their freedom, they are saying now that we can also have a part in the country. We can come into power. So there is a competition between Christian and Muslim as to who should control the country. And that's why today, if there's an election, people look at who is the president. Is it a Christian or Muslim? Muslim will always want to see that the president must be a Muslim. And our Christians say, we are now clever, we have the right, we can choose the person we want to be in the power. And therefore, Christians wanted to make sure that Christians should be the president. And so, this is at the higher level, but even at the local level, there's such a politics. So, the enmity has been there for many years. It is just suppressed, especially when the Nigerian got independent. Soon after that, military government took over. And during the military regime, nobody can talk because they have a gun. So the issue was just suppressed at that time until when the democratic system came, when everybody has a freedom to say whatever they want, and that's when the issue of Sharia started again. And the issue of Sharia is that Muslims are saying we wanted to bring back that system that was in place before the British. And then Christians are saying, no way, you cannot bring this kind of system anymore. And that is the beginning of the conflict. So, as time goes on, people begin to see who is the majority. Is it a Christian or Muslim? Actually, you cannot know who is the majority, because if you read in the books, the statistic about whether Christians are more or Muslims are more, it depends on who you are reading. If you read a material from Christians, Christians will always elevate the number of Muslims higher than number of Christians higher than the Muslims. If there's a Muslim who is giving the statistic, he will always want to portray that Muslims are more in Nigeria than Christians. And so we continue to fight between who controls the country really. But actually, recent election that put Jonathan on the power seemed to show that Christians are more in number, because that election was done based on religion. So this did not happen in the east or western part of Nigeria. What happened in the east and the west was, the first problem in the east and the west was commercial issues. The British commercial businessmen and the indigenous commercial businessmen were only quarreling with one another. And when the missionary appeared, missionaries were used both by the local people and by the British as intermediary between the two tribes. So missionaries themselves were actually stuck. Sometimes they compromised with the British, sometimes they compromised with the local rulers. And according to history, the missionary who worked in the southeast had an agreement with the local rulers. The local rulers say, yeah, we will accept you if you help us to achieve our own interests with your brother, which is a business. And we also accept you as a missionary on the condition that you will allow our children to come to a traditional practice when we need it. And when you need them, either for school or for religious practice, they can go over there. Missionaries had no choice, because the local people there say, if you don't accept this condition, then go away with Christianity. Because they said our traditional religion has been tested, and it proves to be helping the society. And if the Christianity you brought, it is actually really for helping the people, then Jesus must cooperate with the traditional God. Where traditional God failed, Jesus can help. If Jesus lacked experience in Africa, traditional God can help. That was the condition given in the Southwest. So missionaries agree. So Christianity grew together with traditional religion, like complementing brothers and sisters. And today, you don't see this conflict between Christian and Muslim in the Southwest. There's nothing like that. Only in the North, where Christianity was planted purposefully in order to eliminate Islam. So Islam has been seeing Christianity in the North as their enemies. And that's why they try to attack it by all means and eliminate it if they can. So recently, what is happening recently, you hear Boko Haram, Boko Haram. Actually, in Nigeria, I don't accept that language, Boko Haram, because Boko Haram literally means anti-Western education. Of course, that was how the idea started. But if you look at the activities of this organization, they are not really anti-West, because somebody who is against Western education will not use a chemical to manufacture a bomb. He will not even use AK-47. So they are not against Western education. And if you read their own statement by the leader of this group, they said their primary purpose is to revive that state of Islam and make sure Sharia is fully implemented across the whole of Nigeria. That is their agenda. So this group, these are young people. This group started for a long time because Nigerian politicians who are Muslim have been sponsoring them to Arab countries for training in terrorism. Sometimes they sponsor them in the name of going to pilgrimage in Mecca, but actually they're going to be trained by the Bin Laden's group. And Nigerian security has been warning the government that something is happening in Nigeria. If Nigeria doesn't take care, there's going to be a big problem. The Nigerian government is helpless in the situation like this because why? This government is two people, Christian and Muslim. And if the agenda of the people so-called Boko Haram is to propagate the teaching of Prophet Muhammad and also to make sure Sharia is fully implemented in Nigeria, which Islam will be against that? No Islam. And so most of this group was sponsored by higher people in the authority. And remember, the president of Nigeria once said, when there was tension going on, people were talking to him, why can't you stop this issue? He said the group has infiltrated his cabinet. Meaning the Boko Haram group are member of his cabinet. So how can he stop it? To fight it means to fight himself. They have to fight in the House of Assembly or House of Representatives because some of the supporters of this group are among the politicians. So it was difficult for him. But so the group started gradually. Even when the group started, there was a security information given to the president. This man is intending to destroy Nigeria. But depends on who you are talking to, depends on who you are security. The Boko Haram people have their members in the army, have their members in the police, they have their members in the security service of Nigeria. They are infiltrated everywhere. So whatever information you are giving, if you are reporting, it depends on who you are reporting it to. If you are reporting to their member, you are just wasting your time. They won't listen. And that's how it grew to the extent that 2003, it exploded. This man, Yusufu, started with his group in Maiduguri, massive attack on the police first, and then gradually attacking church by church by church. What the government overacted by just sending an army. And you know when you send an army to a situation like that, armies don't discriminate. They will shoot anybody they see in the street, and you will see a massive upheaval. So the present situation we are facing now is that this group, Boko Haram, intended to capture Borno State, Maiduguri, to establish their headquarters. And then after that, the next state, which is Yobe State in Damaturu, that was the next state. And so the fierce fighting between the government force and this particular group now is in Borno State. Most of the churches have been hunted house to house. A lot of churches have been burned. Here in churches, about maybe 6 of our local churches have been burned down completely. Even when I was coming to this conference, I received a call. One of our church in Damaturu was burned, and the guide man was killed. So this group now has vowed that they will never stop their agenda to make sure Nigeria becomes Islamic country. They need nothing other than to establish Sharia, full Sharia in Nigeria. And the only condition for peace, if Christians want a peace, is to convert to Islam. If Christians refuse to convert to Islam, let them be aware that they will never experience peace. One of their leaders said, I enjoy slaughtering people for the sake of God, like the way I'm enjoying slaughtering ram and chicken. Well, if somebody is saying something like that, what are you going to do with him? So there's a series of restriction and tension in Maiduguri and Yobe State today. If you go to Yobe State, Christians recently have been given a letter that if you are renting in a Muslim house, you must leave that house, automatic. And they have been going to commercial centers of Christians, killing them one by one. And if they run, they will come and take over their place. And they have been targeting the churches. Most of the churches in Maiduguri, except EYN, who is still standing there a little bit, EYN, which is Church of the Brethren in Nigeria, is still existing. Most of the other churches have been closed down. The membership are reduced completely because people are running away to some other areas. And then, in Sunday time, each of those churches are guided by either police or military. So much of the offering, because you have to keep these armies almost every day at the church. And you have to feed them and take care of them. And so the offering of the member or churches, part of it also goes to the military. And therefore, the income is reduced. Members cannot even give offering because most of their business centers have been destroyed. Their houses have been burned down. And therefore, they are even living like a refuge within these states and this state. And apart from the open killing, they have invented another system of silent killing. So if you are a Christian, they will target your house in the night. They will just go and call you and then kill you. So this is what Christians are going through, particularly in Maiduguri and Yobe State. It hasn't gone actually to other places like Mubi. Yes, we had an experience recently in Mubi because they targeted a hostel where students are living. They went in the night and then house to house shooting the students. They shoot about 43 people in the night. And you call, when one of our pastors who was living there called the military, keep calling, they refused to come because they collaborated with the military before they even went there. And therefore, situation is more difficult because even if a military is sent or police is sent to your area, you never know whether he's a member of this group. So you think you are under protection, the military may even shoot you or the police may even shoot you. So in some places, Christians now are overacting because initially, when these things happen, Christians will come to the places where the churches are burned, they will be singing and say, we will not retaliate, we will leave everything to God. Even if they hit us on the elder cheek, we will turn the elder cheek. Women following will be singing at that time. But now, that singing has stopped. In some places like Jos, for example, where it has been very constant because Jos is in the middle belt, it's a predominantly Christian community. There has been a plan for the whole Muslims to organize against Plateau State. And so there have been constant fighting. So the people of Plateau have decided they cannot keep watching anymore. So they begin to empower themselves that almost every Christian is ready. So this terrorist called Boko Haram will find it difficult to go to Jos. Because if bomb happens in the church in Jos, they're not going to look for the particular person who said the bomb. They will hunt for every Muslim they can find in Plateau State. And that's why retaliation keep going on like that. So churches have to devise another means now how to conduct a service and even how to go to church. People are afraid. Sometimes they will target, like a recent one, some of the school children. They will just rush in with their car full of bomb and then explode. A lot of children will be killed. So they will do all kinds of things to make sure Christians are eliminated. And recently, when they attacked Plateau State, they killed about 130 people. People carried these corpses to the burial ground. During the burial ground, they attacked them also and killed about 50 people there. So you can't even go and bury your dead. You can't even attend the service. And that's the crisis that Christians are going through, particularly in a Muslim-dominant place. My wife, Dr. Rebecca, has done, as you heard, a lot of study particularly on this crisis in Plateau, Kaduna, and Maiduguri, focus on the effect of this particular issue on women and children. If you read her material, you'll discover a shocking story that is there. How women suffered silently. Some of them were killed. Some of them even watched their husband being slaughtered in front of them. Or they sometimes watched their children being slaughtered like a goat. Some of them are raped. Some of them, some part of their body are cut when they're still alive. And so their property burned. So children are left orphan. The widows are left orphan with a lot of stress and psychological problems. But what she discovered is not only a Christian woman. Even so, Muslim women suffer the same thing. So it depends on where you are in Nigeria. If you happen to find yourself among Muslims as a Christian, you'll be the victim. If a Muslim finds himself in a Christian-dominated area, he must be a victim. So Nigeria today, mostly in northern part, the country has been divided into sections. If you go to Jos, there are areas, if you're a Muslim, never even dream of going there. And there are areas, if you're a Christian, never even dream of visiting that area, because once you go there, you'll never come alive again. The same thing in Kaduna, the same thing in Maiduguri. So Nigeria has been split into religious group, section by section, section by section. So this is the question was, will this country continue to live together? And then I said, what is the general Christian thinking about issue like this? Christian scholars begin to criticize the church, that the reason why this issue continues to intensify persecution against the church is because the church has been compromising. It's because the church did not care about what is happening with the politics of the country, and therefore it is a punishment. We shouldn't have actually been watching and even singing when these things are happening. We're supposed to have been planning how to counteract it. And therefore, recently, the president of Christian Association of Nigeria declared in a public TV that Christian, it's time now to defend yourself. Well, that's the statement he made. This is for the whole Nigerian Christian now. People question, what do you mean by defending yourself? He said, don't kill somebody, don't revenge, but do not allow anybody to kill you or to destroy your property. That's what he means by defend. So the language of most Christians in Nigeria is, let's defend ourselves. Let's prepare. Is that a good story? If Christians are saying, let us prepare and defend ourselves, what do you think? Christians are forced to plan for security, how to deal with a security situation. And it differs from across denomination. For us, as a EYN, what do we do as a peace church? Can we preach peace in a community like this where everybody is angry and saying we have no other cheek? What do we say? What will he say? Well, always, our members, young people, are even saying we shouldn't talk about peace. If we continue to talk about peace, we will be cheated again. The only peace that Muslims will hear is AK-47 by AK-47. Is that a good story? Never. Is that a good story? But what do you do in a tensive situation like this? UN peace program has, from the beginning, trying to create understanding between Christian and Muslim. Sometimes UN members or pastors are mocked by keep talking about peace. What are you talking about? These brethren, they keep mocking us because they thought what we are talking about, what we are doing, is not going to work at all. But UN, as a church, continue to do what they can do to the best of their knowledge, creating under our peace program, especially when Jennifer and Nathan Hasler were in Nigeria. They were there as a peace consultant. They actually helped in creating a group called CAMPI, which is a Christian and Muslim peace initiative. This CAMPI group is both Christians, male and female, Muslim male and female, coming together to discuss some ways, especially about the causes of this problem, and then how to deal with it, how to create understanding between the two communities. Because this particular community that Nathan created was that they said there is a need. We cannot separate from one another. We cannot eliminate one group in Nigeria. We have to live together and must find a way how we can live together. So they have been meeting from time to time with this Muslim group. This Muslim community who are coming from their angle to meet with the Christian from the brethren are also in danger of being criticized by their own people. Why are they coming to this pagan to talk about? We have nothing to talk about with a pagan. Our agenda is to make sure Sharia is established in Nigeria. But there are a few groups like that who agree to come to talk with Christians. Recently, the group has actually seen that the target for peace in Nigeria is to go to the secondary schools, high school, you call it high school here. And this is a high school where much of young people, both Christian and Muslim, are coming together. So they have started to create what they call a peace club. In the peace club, the government also has allowed them to form this peace club in some of these secondary schools. And the peace club, in the peace club, they will organize a debate about the causes of conflict. Especially, they will target some issue like poverty are the causes, and then they will discuss how to deal with the poverty. Sometimes they will bring some topics, especially a dress code. Because there are some dresses that are offensive to Muslims. So they will discuss issue concerning dress code. They also talk about some community activities which Muslim and Christian can do together in order to develop their community. And so there are a series of program within this peace club. Sometimes they organize dancing together. Sometimes they organize football together with the Muslim Christians. Well, this is a UN thinking about maybe not putting too much focus on the existing problem, but look at the future generation. If we can influence this future generation to develop good respect and understanding between each other, these people are going to be the future leaders. So this is the present focus of the UN Peace Program. My wife, I'm not a member of the CAMPI, she's a member of this CAMPI. And maybe she can, if I sit down, maybe she can talk about what they're doing in this particular group that Hasla and Jonathan has formed. But as I said, for UN, we are very much affected by this crisis because most of our churches in the north are in these Muslim-dominated areas. It has actually impacted our church a lot. For me, sometimes as a leader, it's very, very difficult because every night I can't sleep. I have to receive calls. Something is happening here. So of our members are being killed. So our young people are being killed. Our church is being burned. A pastor has been killed. It's very difficult for somebody like me to sleep. Sometimes I wonder, what can I do? It's a difficult situation because people look onto you. Problem is there. They think you must do something about it. But even the federal government of Nigeria find it very difficult to do something about the crisis. How more of you, as a church leader, what do we do? So it is a tensive situation. But we feel happy because I received a message from Jay, how some group of people here come together to pray for the situation in Nigeria. When we hear something like that, it gives us a relief, gives us sense that we are not alone in this problem. There are people across here praying for us. Recently, we even received a letter from Haiti that they understand our problem and they are praying. And this is the best thing we can do as a members of God's family, if we can come together to ask God, because sometimes some situation that we as a human being cannot handle it, we need to give it to God. And God will actually provide the best solution, because if we rely on our human effort, we may end up buying AK-47 and then begin killing one another. And when you have AK-47, it will never bring peace at all. There's no form of retaliation and killing will bring peace, never bring peace. The only way is to surely understand one another and agree that both Christian and Muslim in Nigeria must live together. And that's the most important thing. And we need your support as we have been doing, either in prayer and whichever way. And sometimes we value it very much if we see some young people who have been going like Nathan, going to Nigeria and create, because this kind of people are more neutral. The people will not suspect them because they can bring people together better than Christian and Muslim going to Christian, going to Muslim. This suspicion of one another is very strong in Nigeria. So you still have a part to play. How, especially UN can continue to maintain their peace heritage, in that most of the churches are actually preparing for self-defense. And self-defense, whichever way you do, even I myself, I tempted to say, I think we need to do some self-defense. And I'm doing it because why? My way is not to buy a AK-47. The self-defense, when we see the situation today, it happened that one of our members, the director of Nigerian Security Service, is UN member. So I went to him, asked advice, what do we do about the present security situation? So he gave me an advice that we need to form a security committee. A security committee made of military and police who have been working in this kind of a security system. To what? To train our people how to find information and the plan of attack that has been going in, because if we know ahead of time, we can avoid it, rather than waiting when it happens, then we react. When you react, the situation sometimes is always negative. So this is what UN is doing presently. So thank you very much.